I'm Shimelle Laine, and I'm here with a new edition of Sketch to Scrapbook page, and I'm getting to the very end of my January Best of Both Worlds kit. So I have some of each of the three alphabets left, so although I'm missing some vowels and things here and there, I definitely have enough that I can spell things out. Of course, I still have my stamps and my washi tape, which aren't going to run out, and I can carry on using those. But with the things that run out, I just have these odd little bits of paper here. I have one more 12 by 12 sheet, but I've set it aside to do one last project with. I'm not going to use it on this layout. So I have some of this floral that has the blue polka dot on the other side, two 4 by 6 cards, two pink on one side, and then it has this green on the other. Then just a few little scraps of paper and a handful of buttons, 5 little buttons. That's everything that I have left. I've used the rest. So I'm going to try to use most of this, but I need a background. So I'm going to pull in an extra sheet of pattern paper from my stash, and this is from Pebble's Walnut Grove collection. It's a yellow floral. And here's a look at this week's sketch. It includes 3 square photos, and I'm using these 3 pictures of flowers at the Olympic Stadium, and I just printed them at home. These were actually taken on my SLR rather than an Instagram, but you could certainly use any phone picture, anything you've cropped into a square, such as an Instagram, to use this sketch. And I've printed these just shy of 3 inches. They're actually 2.8 inches square, because on my home printer through iPhoto, if I do 3-inch squares on 4 by 6 photo paper, it will take it to 2. It'll just print 1 on each piece of paper. But if I do 2.8 inches, it will put 2 on one 4 by 6. So just I tend to think it's handier to not waste the paper and get them on a smaller amount of photo paper if I'm printing them at home. So I have 3 of those squares, just shy of 3 inches, and then I'm going to use these other bits of paper and see how I can figure in the pink. I'm really not convinced that the pink is going to work, and I may need to find some other separate project to put these on, but I'm going to give it a try. Okay, so with this sketch, the 3 photos are going to be in this line over on the side, and then quite a bit of this side of the page is just going to be open with the title and the writing at the bottom, which is why I chose a really pale, plain pattern for the background. It would certainly work on plain cardstock, but I prefer my layouts on pattern most of the time, so I just chose something that would be really subtle so that I could write straight on top of it and it would still be legible. But over here I can have bolder paper behind the photos, and then I have a few little layers of lines and maybe some photo tabs or other pieces that separate the photo section from the plainer section with the writing. So I'm going to use this bolder floral. Now, when I've been using this in the project so far, I've always used the blue polka dot. So I'm going to go ahead and give this bolder side a try, and then I'll use the polka dot next to it as well. And tucking this behind as a layer here. And that's when I thought, well, I could look to see what would it look like to put these pink pieces in as different layers. And I'm just not sure that that's the best way to do it, unless, hold on, if I mat the photos in pink, then it would work. So let's see how this might work. I can only put 1 on here. And that side is not going to work at all. Well, okay, I definitely am going to need to pull in some additional paper, so even if I do use the pink. So I'm going to go ahead and look at my scraps and see, I have kind of 2 options here. I can either put the 2 pink journaling cards to the side, use them for something else, and focus on pattern paper scraps that would work with just this selection. Or if I stumble upon anything in my scraps that takes this kind of combination of blue and yellow and includes pink, then if I had one pattern that included all those colors, then these pieces would be a lot more useful. So I'll have a look in my basket of scraps and offcuts and see if I can find. I found a few more pieces that would coordinate, but I didn't find anything that would bring in the pink. So I'm just going to put the pink aside for the moment and work with this color palette. Two of these are branding strips from the sides. One of them was the background that I was using, and then one was just one that was at the side of my trimmer. And then some green, some yellow, and these two greens are the A and B side of the same print. So I figured out what order I would want them in from side to side, just so that I could break up the similar patterns and similar colors. I didn't want the two ginghams together, although I do have two polka dots here together. So pretty simple that way. Just move them around until I found a set that I liked, and then I can just start adhering them on top and move them all into one piece. I may have gotten a little carried away with the different scrap strips because I have changed the balance here a little bit, and now this part of the page is taking up quite a bit more than what it originally was in the sketch, but I'm okay with that. I'm just going to go with the changes as I go, and I did decide that the floral pictures on the floral paper was a little bit too much, so to add a bit of weight so that you can see the photos, I just cut two mats from scraps in my basket. So I've got a yellow one and a blue, and just go ahead and attach that just central in all the flowers there. And then I had one little punched label in yellow with polka dots left over from something else I'd punched for another page and hadn't used that particular one. So it made me think maybe I should just use a few of those for the little tabs in the sketch. So I went to those two papers that I had cut for the mat, and I've got a strip of the yellow and some labels from the blue, and I can bring in that yellow. So I'm thinking that I could do these little tabs and then use my stamps on top of them to add some wording. So I'm just going to tuck these under different little spots here. So now I'm going to take my letter stamps, my word stamps, I mean, and see what little phrases I could fit in these. Yep. I decided when I was stamping that the letters looked lovely on the yellow, but I wasn't happy with the black ink on the blue pattern paper. And then it was right about that same time when I realized that two of the three chipboard buttons I had left over had either bees or honeycomb. So it actually fit the theme, not only in a kind of general bees to floral type way, but actually specifically because the wildflowers that were all chosen for the Olympic Park, part of the reason those particular varieties were chosen was to help boost the bee population. So I figured that was as good a place as any to include those chipboard buttons, and I swapped out a plain non-stamped label here with some pop dots behind it. And then because I had changed the spacing of my title, decided I would try the title on the vertical. I had to get a little creative with the wording because I was out of certain vowels, and I originally thought I would do urban wildflowers, but I don't have any A's left in the blue, and I didn't want to bring in another color by adding the turquoise. And I could spell urban with gold, but I just thought it was going to be too much down the page. So just kind of changed my idea of what I was going to do with the wording there and used the stickers, and then the hello is actually just a partial stamp from one of these, the one that says hello weekend, but I just inked the hello. Same thing here where it says happy, it's the happy mail stamp, but I just inked the happy part. I'm going to go ahead and add in my journaling at this point and then come back with a little bit of finishing embellishment because I'd like something that would bring this diagonal line together so that the photos don't seem quite so separate from everything else. I was still able to fit my journaling in the same spot on the sketch, even though I've moved things over and turned the title around, and then realized that I could mimic the same vertical lettering on this side as I did with the title. So most of the pages that are going into my album that's all about the Olympics, I've put a 2012 or something like that, and it's normally quite small. Most of the 2012s are little stickers or a little date here and there, and I just decided, since I still had those numbers left on the thicker sheet, there was no harm in making it a big 2012 instead of the small version. And I had enough letters to spell out London, so that way I could repeat both lettering styles in both places, and brought a little bit of the polka dot over to this side, and that helps bring the photos into this whole flow, I think. I wanted to add a little finishing touch, and I could use something like gems or enamel dots, but I wanted to see if I could stick to the supplies that I'd already pulled out so that I wouldn't be bringing in anything completely new and adding more supplies for you. So I had a little scrap of this green paper left, where the scrap in my basket wasn't just a narrow strip, it was kind of off-shaped, and it was just a tiny little bit, but it was enough for me to punch 3 little hearts, and I've put each one on a pop dot, and then I'm just going to scatter them. Now, you've seen quite often I will do triangles of 3 on a page, so maybe there's some embellishment here, and embellishment here, and then embellishment here, so that it forms a triangle. This is a slightly different version, but I have done this sort of look before in a design principle, but it looks a little different because I've put everything nice and straight and orderly and square. So this is more a loose diagonal line, except normally when I do a loose diagonal line, there's kind of lots of pieces and the line is more fluid. There's not gaps in between. So I'll link you up to a video that really explains the idea of the loose diagonal line, just in case that's something that's new to you. But these 3 little green hearts should help emphasize the idea that that everything is kind of flowing from this corner to the bottom. And I'm just trying to see where I could pop this one toward the bottom of the page. And of course, I should have thought this through when I was doing my writing. I think I'm actually going to pop it right in the corner, and then maybe I may need to rewrite one little word, but it'll work. I'll make it fit. It's fine. So I'm going to call that one done, and I would love for you to stop by Shimelle.com and have a look at a second interpretation of this sketch. And our guest this week has used 2 4x6 photos instead of 3 squares. So a little different take, and she has really done some beautiful embellishment. So if this was a little too minimal for you and you'd like more on the page, definitely stop by and have a look. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love for you to subscribe, and I'll see you soon.